You ever watch a kid's life get stolen in a courtroom, sentenced to rot in a cell for something he didn't do, only to find out his dad's the one person who could tear the whole system apart? That's what happened when a judge slammed a life sentence on a black teen, not knowing the boy's father was the U.S. Attorney General, ready to burn the corrupt machine to the ground to save his son. By the time the truth broke free, it shook the nation, but it left me wondering if justice this big comes at too high a cost, or if some fights need a fire to set things right. My name's Marcus Tate, and this is the story of how a quiet afternoon in Birmingham, Alabama, turned into a battle that freed a boy, exposed a rotten system, and made a father face the son he'd left behind. I was in that courtroom, just a paralegal scribbling notes, when 17-year-old Jamal Carter stood there, cuffs biting his wrists, orange jumpsuit hanging loose, eyes fixed on the floor like he'd already given up. His mom, Loretta, sat in the back, hands knotted so tight her knuckles paled, her face raw from nights without sleep, calling every lawyer she could, only to hear too late or too expensive. Judge Harlan Wade, perched high on the bench, didn't even look at Jamal, just flipped papers and read the verdict like he was ordering takeout. Guilty on all counts, life without parole. Loretta's gasp cut the air. A choked, "No, please, he didn't do it." She tried to stand, collapsed, her sob echoing as she hit the floor. But Wade didn't flinch, didn't glance her way, just moved to the next case. Jamal stayed still, clutching a worn sketch of his mom reading by lamplight, his fingers trembling but his face blank, like he'd learned long ago the world didn't listen to kids like him. The bailiff barked, "Let's go." And as they let him out, he glanced back at Loretta, still reaching, mouthing something silent. Maybe a prayer, maybe just her name. The door clicked shut and I felt my stomach twist, not just because of the sentence, but because I'd seen the files the day before. Traffic cam photos, a shaky glove print, reports that didn't add up, all gone now, swapped for a thinner folder. I couldn't speak. Not then, not in Wade's court, but that boy's eyes stuck with me. Like he saw me, saw everything, and I knew this wasn't justice. It was a setup. Jamal wasn't a troublemaker, just a quiet kid with a sketchbook, living with Loretta in a cramped apartment on 4th Street, Birmingham's rougher side. He drew everything. His mom's tired smile, the busted hydrant down the block, kids at the bus stop. He didn't post his art, didn't brag, just scanned it at the library where Ms. Evelyn, the librarian, would grin and say, "Art schools won't know what hit him, Jamal." He was chasing a scholarship, a full ride to a top program, saving every sketch for his portfolio, naming files like home for his mom's portrait. That Thursday, he'd been at the library, scanning drawings, double-checking his work, then stopped at Ortiz's corner store for chips, a candy bar, and strawberries for Loretta, her favorite. He paid $6.75, chatted with Mr. Ortiz about his scholarship, and stepped outside, sketchbook tucked under his arm. Then screech. 2 cop cars roared up, no sirens, just lights and force. "Hands up!" they shouted, slamming him to the pavement before he could blink, strawberries bursting, sketchbook pages tearing in the wind. "Young black male, blue hoodie. Matches the description?" one cop said, cuffing him as they claimed he'd robbed a game store on 6th. Jamal tried, "I was at the library. Ask Ms. Evelyn." But they didn't listen, didn't check his bag, just shoved him into the cruiser. His drawings left bleeding graphite on the sidewalk. It wasn't a mistake. It was a system that saw a black kid and wrote the story before asking his name. In court, Jamal's public defender, a frazzled guy named Ellis, barely glanced at him, muttering, "Anything to say?" Jamal pleaded, "I was at the library, there's footage." But Ellis shrugged. "We'll try." The trial was a sham. A blurry store cam, a glove from Jamal's bag. Used for sketching, not robbing, with a probable print the lab later flagged as inconclusive. And no witnesses called, not even Ms. Evelyn. Wade shut it down fast, no bail, no mercy, sentencing Jamal to life like he was tossing out trash. Loretta's cries didn't move him, and I, stuck at the clerk's desk, saw files vanish. Traffic cams, lab notes, all scrubbed to seal Jamal's fate. Wade's nephew ran the juvenile lockup, a detail buried deep, and every case like Jamal's fed that machine, keeping beds filled and pockets lined. 3 weeks later, in a gray cell, Jamal got one phone call. He didn't dial Loretta. She couldn't afford the collect charge. But a number he'd memorized as a kid, one his dad, Vernon Holt, the U.S. Attorney General, hadn't heard in a decade. Vernon, mid-press conference in D.C., preaching justice and equity, felt his phone buzz, an unknown number from Alabama. He stepped away, voice sharp. "This is Vernon Holt. Who's this?" A pause, then a quiet, "It's me, your son. I need help." Jamal's voice cracked. "They say I robbed a store. I didn't. I was at the library. They gave me life, no parole." Vernon froze, the weight of every missed birthday, every unopened letter, crashing down. He leaned against the wall, hand shaking, and whispered, "Where are you?" That call wasn't just a plea. It was a spark, igniting a fight that would crack the system wide open. Vernon didn't sleep that night, hunched over his laptop, pulling Jamal's case files, spotting red flags instantly. Doctored traffic cam metadata, a glove print fudged from inconclusive to match, and Wade's record, 94% max sentences for young black males, trials averaging under 2 days. It wasn't one bad judge. It was a machine built to crush kids like Jamal and Vernon, who'd spent his life climbing that machine, felt it betray him. He called his old law professor, Ms. Clara Evans, meeting her at a D.C. diner, voice low. "If it was your son, and the system failed him, what would you do?" She didn't blink. "I'd burn it down, Vernon. For him, for all of them." That lit a fire he couldn't douse. He assembled a covert team, 4 young attorneys, sharp and unjaded. Lisa Tran for tech law, Darius Bell for defense, Carmen Ortiz for civil rights, and Malik Jones for procedure. In a locked DOJ room, blinds drawn, Vernon laid it out. "We're investigating Judge Harlan Wade and every case he's touched. Start with Jamal Carter, but don't stop there." Meanwhile, I couldn't shake Jamal's face. Those missing files gnawing at me. I'd worked under Wade 5 years, kept my head down, but this was different. I sent an anonymous email to Vernon's team. "I have memos, deleted footage. Meet me, no names." 2 days later, at a quiet Birmingham cafe, I slid a USB to Lisa and Darius, heart-pounding, original traffic cams. Notes: Wade pulled Jamal's case himself, broke protocol. His nephew runs the lockup. Lisa's eyes narrowed. "That's a conflict," he buried it. I whispered, "They went through my brother's immigration papers at my place. Scared me quiet." Darius leaned in. "You're not quiet now." That USB with Khalil's sketch of me typing was my line in the sand. I wasn't brave, just done pretending a boy didn't matter. Jamal, in that gray cell, started drawing again, not just for himself but for the men around him. Big Ron, who missed his daughter's poems. Ty, who sang Marvin Gaye while mopping. Leo, who grew herbs in plastic cups. Each sketch held their stories, their humanity, smuggled out by Ms. Lorraine, a volunteer teacher, in an envelope marked voices. Those drawings hit the streets, shared by art collectives, then social media, exploding as #VoicesWithin, each portrait captioned with dreams or regrets. I ran because I was scared, not guilty. Protests erupted, banners reading "Free Jamal Carter." Murals of his art on city walls, news outlets, CNN, NPR, running split screens of Vernon's Senate testimony and Jamal's sketches. Vernon stood before senators. No script, just Jamal's drawings projected behind him. Faces of forgotten boys under captions like, "She asks when I'm coming home." He laid out stats, 48-hour trials, 94% max sentences for black teens. Voice steady but raw. I believed in justice's slow crawl, but for too many, it's never come. The nation roared back, chants of justice for Jamal, echoing from Birmingham to D.C. Law students holding his art in silent vigils. Wade's machine was cracking, and Jamal's pencil was the wedge. I kept feeding Vernon's team memos, timestamps, despite late-night calls warning me to stop. My brother's green card file left open on my desk after another break-in. But I saw Jamal's sketch of me and I kept going, because he'd seen me when no one else did. The federal appeals court was a world away from Wade's cold bench. Bright, open, Judge Elena Torres presiding. Her voice warm but firm. We'll hear Mr. Jamal Carter's appeal. Jamal stood, thinner but steady, with a civil rights legal team, Loretta, Vernon, and a nation watching. Lisa laid out tampered cams, Carmen exposed Wade's prison ties, and I, behind a screen, voice distorted, testified. Wade deleted exculpatory footage, rushed the case to profit his nephew's facility. Torres turned to Jamal. Anything to say? He rose, glancing at Loretta's tear-streaked face, then Vernon's clenched jaw. I didn't want to be a symbol, just wanted to draw. If this helps someone else, it's enough. Torres didn't hesitate. Based on new evidence and judicial misconduct, the conviction is vacated. Mr. Carter, you're free. Loretta's quiet sob filled the room. Jamal exhaled, shoulders easing, and outside, cheers erupted, #voices within trending worldwide. That night, in his old room, Jamal pinned a blank sheet to the wall, pencil poised, ready to start again. Wade was indicted, his career ashes, his nephew's lockup under scrutiny, and Vernon's probe sparked reviews of hundreds of cases, reshaping juvenile justice. Birmingham streets bloomed with art. Loretta's smile returned, and I found peace, knowing my whisper helped break the silence. But as I watched Jamal sketch under his lamp, Vernon's words, "Justice delayed isn't justice," lingered. Was exposing Wade enough? Or did we just scratch the surface of a broken system? Jamal's free, but is he safe from the next cop? The next judge? I'm still here, clerking, watching, but should I keep fighting or trust this change? A kid left a drawing at the library. A pencil sketch of Jamal, caption scene. That's the win, right? But is it enough? Or is another cell waiting just out of sight? What do you think? Was Vernon's crusade justice? Or too personal? Should Jamal keep drawing or fight on? Ever seen a system fail someone like this? Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching, share your stories. Like, subscribe, and let's keep the voices loud against the silence so you don't have to.